I am from Mexico. Then I studied in the US financial engineering. The engineering part is the important piece. I wanted to be a founder because I want to build things. All of those roles I've taken to become an entrepreneur. From an early childhood, my parents trained me to deal with failures.
What were the initial struggles for you?
There are times when I'm down. There are times when I'm like, oh man, product is not good enough, or the feature that the big client wants is way too difficult. Those are the struggles, I guess, as a solo founder, to not have someone to go through these hardships with.
Hello, Noel. Thank you so much for coming to the Life of a Founder. How's it going?
Pretty good. Nice to be here, Max. What a privilege. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. Anyway, from Mexico City, which I love, I do believe one of the most stylish and city and such a good food as well. So thank you very much for coming. So, would you like to give me a pitch of yourself? Where have you come from, and where it all started?
Sure. I am from Mexico. Then I studied in the US financial engineering, and that I really studied it. The engineering part is the important piece because I like building stuff. And ever since I was in school, I thought I wanted to be a founder because I want to build things. And uh, then I graduated, went on to work in the banking world for UBS in New York and London, came back to Mexico, worked in private equity, and then worked at two startups as chief of staff, so right hand to the CEO.
Mhm.
And all of those roles I've taken to become an entrepreneur. Um, Private equity was like very helpful in seeing from the highest perspective what a business looks like. And I got to see six different businesses. And then when I was right hand to the CEO, I was pretty much the as chief of staff, you have the most access out of anyone at the company after the CEO. So it was definitely like a privilege to have that much access to information, to just see how a company really works and see all the areas and have, you know, being able to join any meeting was amazing. And yes, that path I took to become a founder. Now that I am a founder, I am building stuff, seeing how to solve problems every day.
What is the motivation behind becoming a founder? Because working for someone maybe cannot be that exciting, be a founder, but at the same time, be a founder it's like, especially when it comes to the very beginning, it's a roller coaster. One day it's okay, the day after it's a nightmare, and after maybe you get excited again, and after 3 days maybe you want to shut down the company with just too much. Happens almost any time when you are in the first 12, 24 months of life as an entrepreneur. So what really motivated you? Okay, I'm going through it because I truly believe so.
You're opening yourself to having a big impact in people's lives, and there are roles where you can have an impact, and like, I don't know, maybe joining a nonprofit organization, but as a founder you get to, like, yes, make money, but have an impact as well. And say where I started my career working for UBS, huge bank. It's the one that just bought Credit Suisse. um, and there's this analogy of rowing a boat. If I say UBS is a big boat and I was on that boat and I was rowing, right? No one would notice if I rowed harder or just not row at all. The boat would continue more or less moving at the same speed. And that was demotivating for me, that I want to cause an impact, because I want to row fast. And now that I'm in my little small boat, I definitely notice when, like, I'm not rowing, like things slow down. So that's part of the big motivator. Even though like I like working in teams and I like having other people rowing with me, I think at a huge company you don't get that empowerment.
I do like this analogy, the small and the big boat, because you're right. I mean, when you get this huge company like QBS, they're massive, and what is done from the employees is almost unperceivable, right? So you don't know actually who is doing well and who's not, who is doing nothing at all. And when the company is small, I mean, you can see literally day by day. If someone's lost, everything's lost pretty much. But again, it's very challenging, and so you must, or maybe you not, but some founders, as I did, for example, I had my day. Say, okay, I decided from today I'm going. And some of them they go more like day by day, and they don't even decide when. They just get started. So, did you have which kind of process you had? I mean, you sit down and say, okay, you know what? Starting from tomorrow, I'm just go, and that's it. I'm not going to watch it back anymore.
I think it has to do with how you deal with failure. Um, in my case, I'm a big athlete. I'm not necessarily like Olympic level or anything like impressive, but I like doing a bunch of sports. And from an early childhood, my parents trained me, let's say, to deal with failure. So, for example, I don't know, uh, I tried gymnastics, and if I would fall, like they would be like, "Oh, you have to pick yourself back up." And if I wasn't falling, it means I wasn't trying hard enough. I picked gymnastics, but let's say I don't know soccer. I played American football, even though I'm like not that big, but yeah. Um, I think in general, it's putting yourself out there and knowing and not being sure being like not necessarily afraid of failure, but having respect for failure so that you put yourself in a position where you're failing every now and then so that you know you're challenging yourself and then just trying again and doing it better so that you do it better and have success at some point.
As you started, okay, coming from private equity M&A, which I do agree helps a lot to understand, especially the financial side of a startup, which at the very beginning, especially if you raise funds, is so important. But you come from be employed to be the owner of yourself and employ others. So, what were the initial struggles for you to adapt to your new life as an entrepreneur?
um, I'm a solo founder, and most people see that as strange. People have co-founders, and there are times when I'm down. There are times when I'm like, oh man, I like didn't make that sale. Like the product is not good enough, or make building that the feature that this big client wants is way too difficult. Um, but then you really have to focus on like just being down like the shortest amount of possible. If it's like a couple hours, great. But definitely like when you sleep, wake up the next day and it's a new day. Um, I do think I'm like very motivated, and that's why I'm like confident I can be a solo founder. But those are the struggles, I guess, as a solo founder to not have someone to go through these hardships with. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. But it's nothing. If you're mentally strong, you can try to be a solo founder. I recommend it.
It's a different story. I understand. I mean, I'm a solo founder. I've done five startups in my life, always alone. I know it's challenging, but anyway, this depends. I do believe depends also on your character, how you are, and who you are. And sometimes you can't have a co-founder. That's it. And maybe I'm one of them. You as well. But uh, how do you motivate yourself?
Well, I exercise, um, and I think that I read you read it in books, right? I read Brain Rules. It's a psychology book, and exercising really helps. Talking to people really helps. I would say talking to other people that are going through the same thing slash other founders is very helpful. I get dinner with a founder at least once a week. Try to mix it up in the founders that I get dinner with, and everyone's going through like similar struggles. And the very least that thing that can happen is like you bond because you're going through those troubles. And then the better things that can happen is they offer you a solution. They tell you how they went about it, and give you something to think about, and maybe even pursue the same thing or a different thing, whatever. But like you get advantage from those conversations.
I mean, be a founder, you must have some kind of routine. I give to myself pretty strong routine every day, a method. I give some kind of discipline because you don't have your boss. You don't have anyone who's telling you what to do. You must tell yourself, right, to your team. So, do you have any kind of routine?
I do. Yes, I sleep at 8:45 p.m. and I wake up at quarter to 6. Go work out, have breakfast. Well, I have two breakfasts, and then let's say grind until 6 p.m. And then when I try to disconnect, for me, I have trouble sleeping. So disconnecting is very important so that I'm not dreaming about the features that I want to build or the clients or whatever, just so that I actually can sleep, because it is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
It's absolutely a marathon. It is. Venture Cup, the startup is an absolutely marathon. It takes months, years sometimes. What do you like the most in what you're doing today as a founder?
At Novotrato, we build extremely fast, and I'm really happy and proud that I can talk to a client today. They can tell me, "Oh, I want like this feature, like that," and there are times when I've delivered the feature in 24 hours. That just feels amazing. Um, some harder features take more time, but like it's amazing that like quick turnaround. Like I want to win this deal, and having that like success, like, oh wow, you built it in 24 hours, great, let's do business together.
So you start from scratch, right? So you are growing with your startup. As the startup grows, how does your life change accordingly?
Well, we're still at an early stage, and I've worked at startups that were Series A and Series B, stages that I haven't reached yet. But I can tell you, I guess, what I saw in the founders that were ahead of me, because I was their right hand, right? So I was very close to them. So at the beginning, you try to rely on just surviving and product market fit. Then I think Series A is a big milestone
Yeah.
where you try to multiply what you built in the product market fit stage. And there are things that I like, things that I don't like. For example, investors really force you to get like expensive people on the team that are great. Um, and while I think they're good, I think you can find really good talent that is much cheaper. Um, so there's this phase at the Series A where people, the founders, focus on company building
Yeah.
rather than solidifying that product market fit, actually like focusing on unit economics. Quick random story: like the first day, my first week at the Series B company, I was like taken to the most expensive, luxurious hotel I had ever been to in my life. So I think that's you know how startup life unfortunately has become, because like you're still a startup, you're not profitable. I definitely think that you should focus on unit economics, um, before like going to like really nice hotels. um,
We have very few example, quite few actually, these startups having spending money like hell and losing as much as they can, but still very, very lavish, right, in terms of how they live their life. I agree with you. You must respect the money the investors give to you. On the other side, investors must be a little more cautious, and they just let them go, let them do whatever they want. They don't check exactly how they should sometimes. So this is why you have big failure after.
And if I can add, sorry, that like on the people, um, you try to attract all these people from like Stanford and Harvard and whatever, and they show up to the job and like you see them and you're like, man, he does the same thing like than the guy he like that half the team that reports to him, and they don't go to Stanford or Harvard, but they can do the same or better. Um, so all of it's tied together. The hotel is so you can recruit the Stanford guy,
Yeah,
and the Stanford
of
guy
course.
costs like twice or three times as much as like the other guy. But the other guy can do the job as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's a kind of a stamp, right? Sometimes you must have according to them. I don't believe so. I'm more on your page. So, do you think about failure? We already talked about it a bit before, but many founders are scared to fail.
Yes, definitely. Like it is an option. I think all founders have to realistically think it is an option. What's I think good, but I don't think it's always seen by other people in the industry or outside of the industry is all the things that you've done as a founder. So let's say you build a product from scratch and you achieve X revenue. That's like really impressive relative to joining a company. Let's say the Series B company, right? And I landed like a big account. What I did to land a big account at the Series B company was significantly easier than landing like a small account from the product from zero. Why? Because as a founder, you have the product from exactly zero. There's like nothing, no marketing campaigns, no one knows your Instagram at, you know, uh, versus when you're established to sell that big account. All you really have to do is like read the materials that the company has, maybe get creative a little bit, think a little bit through what's there and then do it. So I think that's pretty much it.
You must have some kind, as you told a bit already. You spend a lot of time doing sport. So, what's your life outside a day-to-day founder? How does it look like?
So um, it's from 7 to 8 in the morning. I'm at the gym or at the pool or running. Like I have my routine. I try to lift weights 3 times a week. I run once a week and I swim twice a week. That's 6 days. Yeah. So I sometimes I rest. Sometimes I like do yoga as well. Um, Yoga is amazing for sleeping. I highly recommend it. It's also like a very good place to meet people that are not in your industry, so you can talk about something else. Uh, so that's my routine in the mornings. Then let's say from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm working, and I try to divide my time 50% of the time selling or trying to sell, like doing marketing stuff, and the other 50% focusing on product. I think in co-founder relationships, one like the ideal co-founder, one of them does the selling and the other one does the building. When you're a solo founder, you just have to split your time in half and make sure you don't favor one side more than the other, because yes, you can build a great product and not sell anything, um, but then you also need to sell something so you can live and eat.
And
um,
be a solo founder is not an easy job, and you must split yourself, be multitask, and do the tech and the sales, and you must do also the financing part. So, in somehow you had to have pretty established knowledge on few fields, otherwise you just can't do it. There is no way you can manage it. Now, in all days life, from working to working, be employed to be an employee, an employer. Sorry. Uh, what's your greatest, by far, lesson you got so far?
My greatest lesson, I think, being humble. Being humble. I mean, I hope I'm coming across as humble, but um, sometimes I can be perceived as being the opposite, arrogant. And I think it has to do with my background, just like through the experiences that I've come through. But there's a big difference, I think, between successful founders. Okay, let me bring in another term. Let's say like heirs of businesses. Heirs of businesses are sort of like entitled to a business that either their parents or their grandparents built, and yes, they have an established business. They have the luxury of like working a couple hours a week, and like they can't get fired. As a founder, nothing's established, and to sell something, you really have to have, yeah, that humility, emotional intelligence, and try to actually solve a problem for the client. People don't just give you money to give you money. You have to solve a problem for them. You have to make their lives better. And I definitely think you have to be humble for that.
But do you think be humble it's okay when you are small and not that well known? And when you start growing, get success, it gets harder and harder to be humble?
I think it gets harder and harder to be humble. Um, I mean, I'm not like the entrepreneur on the Forbes magazine, but I hope if I ever get on Forbes, I get to listen to this video again and be like, hey, remember how you started? And like you have to stay humble. I think. Uh, I think it's also like a good virtue just as a person, in your life, with your family, with your friends.
If you talk to investors, they say, I need a big headed, humble founder, a great speaker, but also a great listener. That's a lot. And there are just few outside that can match this criteria. They had the same idea. I mean, I do believe founders must be a good listener. And if someone tell you, okay, actually, I'm advising you to do this because I've been there already and I did the same mistake. I made the same mistake. But on your side, when you are a founder, you're so proud of who you are. It's so not that simple to find really humble founders, I have to say.
I
What do
agree with everything that you're saying. I would say that the founders that grab the most attention are the ones that like are really good salesmen, and they can talk amazing about their company and about themselves, which can turn into the not humble side, right? They can sound arrogant.
yeah.
Um, and I think what you mentioned about investors, I think they they want humble founders as well, and that's what they chat about in their investor dinners, and maybe when they're like alone in their house. But then when you see like what's going on in the market, uh, we're all human, and investors are human, and I have I've been in the private equity side, and you see how there are founders that are so good at selling, maybe not that good at operating, that are able to raise huge tickets just because their ability to sell. Um, so yeah, there's like a saying of like, I mean, I saw a post some time ago of like, there was this great founder, a great salesman, uh, with a very similar product to this other founder that was very operationally great, but a like like mediocre salesman. Who do you think raised more money? Question one: Who do you think raised more money? Question two: What business do you think was more profitable?
Number one, number two.
Well,
the,
number
the,
one.
sales, The sales guy raise a lot of money, but doesn't mean it's going to be profitable at all.
Correct.
That's the point. That's the point. And I do believe people that talk less, they are more operational, and they are more on the numbers, and they are more even lean in how they really run the business and conduct everything. A lot of funders, and this is why venture capital is paying a lot of attention today in the mind setting and the health of the mind of the founders. Many of them they get burned out very soon, especially when venture capital is working and they ask them 20, 30, 40% month to month. They just can't afford the stress and they collapse one day. So how do you try to avoid outside doing? You do already a lot because I do believe I love I love sports so much as well. I spend a lot of time and on doing sport, and it helps me absolutely a lot. It
What
helps
sports do you
me.
do?
I mean, today I can only do lifting weights because
Uh-huh.
box I can't touch. My nose is being rebuilt 4 times, and there is no way. But I've been doing everything from karate, kung fu, boxing, athlete, everything, like football, almost everything. But today I'm a 50, cross 50, and I can only lift some weights 4 times per week. But it's okay for me. It's enough, but
Okay.
it reads my brain. I'm a different person when I finish my day. I walk into the gym, and after I'm totally different person. It's like I'm again new before going to sleep because I'm like you. I don't sleep. That's my huge problem. Like for me, sleeping is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Now, but in your side, how do you try to avoid burnout? Because burnout is terrible.
I'm not that religious, but there's like a religious concept. I guess God made it up, of having the seventh day to rest. And there's one day, and I'm not Jewish, but the Jews have Sabbath, right? A day where they don't touch technology. They don't. They like walk everywhere. They don't use a car. They don't turn the lights on. I think it's a great concept to have a day off. I I definitely have worked for very hardworking founders that work, yeah, at least 6 days, maybe 7 days, over 70, 80 hours a week. Um, so one concept is this seventh day, or Sabbath, which is either Saturday or Sunday. Definitely take it off, and if you can disconnect from technology, do it. Why? Because you're like still on WhatsApp, still on Instagram. I deleted Instagram because it was way too addicting. I brought my phone usage from 4 hours a day to 2.5 hours a day after deleting Instagram. Uh, what else? So that's, I guess, in terms of the week, how I structure the week. At least take a day off where you completely disconnect. Um, then I like to turn the switch off at like 7 p.m. I sleep at 9, and that's very important to just think about something else. The gym is great. You mentioned it. What I like about the gym is that you have a very simple thought process while at the gym. You're thinking, how many reps have I done? Oh, so I'm 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, oh, and what set am I on? Am I on the second set or third set? And then all those very simple thoughts that you have clear away the more complex thoughts that keep you awake at night. So that's what I like about the gym. Just like the very simple things that you have to think about.
I mean, that's sport. I mean, especially when it comes to individual sport. I mean, I love running, but I can't run anymore because my knees they do not allow me to run anymore. Has been completely consumed. But for example, running was for me even more than lifting. Running was an absolutely stop thinking everything totally. You breathe so much, and the oxygen goes to your brain. You are totally different person the day after.
Yeah.
And but I mean, yeah, but everyone is a different way. There are founders that I was talking to a founder that she likes to go into the wood and woodland and stay inside. Everyone is different. Okay, everyone find their balance in a different way. If you if you can give an advice to founders that are watching today? What can be your advice?
I would say make sure you're solving a problem that people are willing to pay money for. Um, as simple and concrete as that. Uh, there, there are times when you are not solving a problem. Uh, maybe you're building a feature, not like a business. But if it's a problem, people will pay you for it. Why? Because they'd rather pay you than go through the problem that they're having. I think that's the biggest advice I tell founders.
I mean, in your where you are today, do you miss sometimes to have a co-founder to share problems when you have them
I,
and dig to when you have?
I have had co-founders in the past, and it's nice, and they've been like great, let's say friends. Um, I miss that part for sure, and the motivational piece. At the same time, I think it's pretty hard to find the ideal co-founder, and you would only do it if you think you're. I think another thing to consider is your strengths versus the other person's strengths and weaknesses. So being compatible is much more than just being college friends. Being compatible is like, oh, you're good at sales and shitty at programming, and turns out I'm the other way around. Then we're compatible. Um, so you definitely have to complement each other on your strengths and weaknesses, so that together you're a strong team.
What's your greatest wish for yourself as a founder? Even talk about your personal life and for the company.
Okay. Well, I wish my competitive landscape stays as it is. Like I have some competitors, but like I'm pretty sure I can beat them. Um, I wish my clients are lawyers, and traditionally or usually lawyers, they're not trained with technology, let's say from school, unlike engineers. Like I mean, day one, I was working in a computer. So I really wish lawyers would get trained with computers in school. Um, I have this idea that it's going to change with AI. People using AI tools at school to make their lives better, and just being faster. Like technology helps you in so many ways. Think of our lives before cell phones and with cell phones, and it's so much better with a cell phone. Like, just think of the problem of finding a restaurant while walking on the street. Like before, it was such a big problem. You had to ask everyone like, "Hey, how do you get to the restaurant? How do you get to the restaurant?" And now, like, you click it in Google Maps and you get there so fast. Um, so I think technology, it just has so much room to make our lives better. And in my case, the wish for lawyers is that they acknowledge that technology is on their side and they're more open to it.
I mean, you live in Mexico, Mexico City. There is so much talk about venture capital in South America, but never actually took completely off. Although a lot of money from the US has been invested there, they will be invested there. As a founder, do you feel confident to start okay to scale your business in Mexico, or do you believe you must go one day outside?
For fundraising, I think you definitely have to go outside. So for fundraising, there are some local funds here, but there's just so much demand of founders. Uh, Not sorry, there's so much supply of founders in LATAM, and very little supply of venture capital firms in Mexico. So they're oversubscribed. All the VCs in Mexico or LATAM in general, uh, extremely oversubscribed. What I think is happening in Mexico, or the opportunity that I see, is One, yes, the market is huge, but like, I mean, to give you an idea, the people that live in Latin America is about equal to like the people that live in Europe.
Yeah,
Obviously, the countries are much poorer, um, and the problems to solve are much simpler. But that's an opportunity. Like it's a problem to be a poor country because they don't pay you as much, but it's an opportunity as well because you know what worked in other countries. I think Southeast Asia is what LATAM looks up to the most because they've seen huge advancement with technology over the last couple of years or maybe decades.
yeah,
Things like e-commerce, fintech, everything. If it worked in the US and Europe, you're much more confident that it's going to work in Southeast Asia. And if it worked in Southeast Asia, you're much more confident that it's going to work in LATAM.
that's
So
good. They are good.
yeah, as technology shifts over to our part of the world, yes, today LATAM is a poorer region, and they will pay you less for it. But you're running a much less risk by knowing that it works somewhere else. And to be completely like transparent about my business, I'm really like copying not yeah copying a business that worked somewhere else. So it that you de-risk the
Of
the
course,
business by knowing that it worked somewhere else.
you have already the concept validated, which is a lot.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a lot. Uh, Now, as we are close to the end of talk, but I like to ask funders, and this is pretty much be humble a lot. So you started the business, okay? And as I say to all founders, when you start the business, you are you, maybe yourself, a couple of friends, and you start working on the concept. You find even someone who's going to buy your service or product. You get excited and you move on. But the day comes where you ask the money from outside, you start building something more serious. You start employing people. You have employees, you must pay the bill and so on. And the company grows. And with the growing company, you have more challenging coming and more tasks to be and more skills to have. Do you see yourself run your company in 5 years' time? Let's say, yeah, and maybe even to bring your company to IPO?
I mean, IPO is a big milestone, but I definitely see myself running at least one business in 5 years' time. So if Novotrato is demanding is like found product market fit, steady growth, good unit economics, there's little like things to make improvements on for myself. I'll definitely start a second company, um, and go from there. The people that I guess I admire are serial entrepreneurs, and I strive to be one of those one day.
So, as we close, where do you see yourself in the near future?
I think Novotrato will be successful, and will. I think the unit economics are very good, so there's no reason why Novotrato shouldn't have success. Afterwards, or let's say when Novotrato, there's like less creativity going on in Novotrato. What I would like to do is to do similar businesses in other industries. So take the knowledge applied from Novotrato. Right now, I'm working with lawyers, but maybe do the same product for doctors or for accountants. Um, I mean, maybe not the
Many,
same product, but like very similar products.
many successful funders, they move to venture capital, right? From be founder to give the money to funders. It's something like one day you can think about as you come from private equity. You come from that.
Yeah, I think in terms of investing, I wouldn't be close to, but I think that would be much further than 5 years. I want to operate a business for 10, 15 years more. Um, and as for investing, I, I don't know. I think there's a lot of luck in it, right? And there's a lot of versions of investing. Venture capital is one type of investing, uh, and I think I could do other types of investing as well. So I think the summary of my answer is I would like to operate a business for 10 or 15 more years at least before I consider anything else.
Also, because invest is more static. If you like action, invest is not a really day to day running. It's a bit different, but I agree. Noel, thank you so much for coming to Love a Founder. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really wish you and your venture to succeed, and I'm sure you will. And maybe we can have another talk in 6 months, 1 year, when you are probably already in your A round or something similar.
I hope so, Max. It was a pleasure to be here. Great questions. We can join after the session to talk a little bit more and learn about yourself.
Thank you so much, Noel. Take care.